Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the PivotBoss pre-market video for Thursday, April 14th, 2022. I am Frank Ochoa, aka PivotBoss. Here's a look at the ES in the daily time frame. This is the last trading day of the week here, as Friday is a market holiday in the United States. So this will be the last pre-market video until next Monday. Here's a look at the ES, and what you'll notice right now is we've had a bit of a trading range here develop over the last couple of days with a downward bias. We had quite the counter trend day in the previous session as price pushed through that midpoint and continued higher, and now we are looking at a failed new high that's in development that could lead to another round of weakness within the range here, perhaps back down towards the previous session's open price. So again, right here, that's that 44.50 level has been a very important near-term pivot here. Price tried to get above it today, failing back below it, and very reminiscent of any failed high in a downtrend that can play out. That leads to another round of weakness here. So we'll see how it plays out today. But overall, very narrow range, 33% of average range heading into a holiday extended weekend. We could see further chop range-bound action with a backfill here today toward the previous session's midpoint at the very least. All right, let's take a look here at the NQ. NQ failed high above 2-day highs right now. That's also right at the previous week's low price as well. That's been a very clear area of resistance this entire week between 14,250 and 14,300, and today coming in at 296 here as the high today, and starting to show some weakness away from 2-day highs. So again, if there is a full-on failure away from these highs, we could at least be looking at 2-day midpoints, which are the same, and then you have the bottom of the trading range. So right now we got a very clear trading range that is in development here throughout the week, and a failure to hold 14.2, 14.150 starts to open up that lower part of the range here, the midpoint, and down below up ahead. All right, let's take a look now at crude oil. Crude oil down about 1 1/3% right now on a bit of a pullback phase, but the last 2 days been very strong ever since we had Monday's rejection of the previous week's low. We had 100 as a very easy target, being that was basically the previous week's midpoint, and beyond 100 we'd be looking for a continuation toward the previous week's high, and that's at about 105.50. We're still en route to that target right now, and this pullback here this morning could be enough here to wake this thing up and try to push this thing higher above the 105s. As of right now, got a very narrow 33% of ADR range, just like the ES. The NQ was at 31. We could continue to see quiet sideways chop with an upward bias up ahead for crude oil. Bitcoin right now down 0.19%. This was the biggest bounce we've had since the sell-off began here away from the 48K level. Now, one thing about this, it gave it up right here. That is the previous month's midpoint. When you give it up, the only level left to test is typically the previous month's low, unless you see a significant rejection. Is this enough of a significant rejection? It's not classically a significant rejection, but when you look at the lower time frame chart, say a 60-minute chart, it's a very good 3-point reversal down there and a nice breakout back above 40,000. But again, 40K, the key level here. You have 38K down here, and you have the previous month's low. That's a very strong band of support here. So as we mentioned before, we could see a little bit more downside here in Bitcoin, and then expecting perhaps another flow back up toward 46K and perhaps even higher into 50K, as the highs have been a little bit higher on each rotation and the lows have been a little bit lower so far this year. Taking a look at ETH, you'll notice here Ether futures with a failed new high in development. This failed new high very reminiscent of the one we saw here recently. That led to weakness here. 2 days higher and a failed new high development. Again, this doesn't have to lead to outright failure and rejection, but at the very least right now we're seeing a little bit of a pullback into range. Bulls do want to keep 3,000 bid and the previous month's midpoint bid, and so far that is happening. But you really got to start getting back above, say, 3,200, 3,150 in order to start really opening up some upside here. So we could still be trapped in the current downtrend with another leg down until we see a significant rejection develop. All right, that is it for now. We'll see how this plays out heading into the extended weekend here in the United States. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will see you in the trading room.